welcome to my channel. I'm Stasia and I have recently lost over 30 pounds in about 14 weeks. So today's video, I am going to be talking about the 10 things that I was eating at the beginning of my weight loss journey that I stopped eating, and that's precisely when the weight started to fall off. I've actually been going through some of my old notes and food diaries, and it's actually quite shocking looking back at some of the foods that I was eating, and it just makes a lot more sense why I wasn't losing. So today's video, I'm going to be getting into it because perhaps if you are also struggling to lose weight following a plant-based diet, then maybe you're doing some of the same things that I was doing, and you'll probably find today's video helpful. And if it is your first time landing on one of my videos, I just want to throw this out there that I have been following a plant-based diet for quite some time. We're talking years. And you know, it's almost embarrassing to say that it's not just until now that I'm finally making things click and finally starting to see the weight come off. So I say that to let any of you know that if you've also been struggling, especially like me, for a very, very long time, not to give up, that if I can do it, I swear on everything, you can do it as well. My journey has been far from linear, you know, gain some, lose some. I actually just recently put out this video kind of going into more detail about the timeline of this weight loss, you know, before and after pictures, all that good stuff. So if you're curious about those things, then be sure to check out that video because I will have it posted in my description box below. It's been 4 months that I've been going strong and that I started to stop eating the foods I'm going to be talking about today. And just only 4 months ago, I looked like this. And this next picture was taken, I don't know, maybe about 2 weeks ago now or something. This is what I currently look like. So when I say that if I can do it, you can do it, please, please believe me. All right, but before we jump into today's video, in case it's your first time landing on my channel, then I just want to throw it out there that I have recently put out a brand new weight loss recipe ebook that is basically like a blueprint to how I lost this weight, the 30 pounds in 14 weeks. So these are all the foods that I was keeping track of over the course of those few months, and I put together this ebook specifically with recipes that I was eating the most. Now, as you're about to find out a little bit later in this video, one of the main things that I've done is to remove the overt fats from my diet, hence the name of this book. It has no overt fat included in any of the recipes at all. I also don't have any recipes that include breads or pastas, which again, we're going to be getting into all of that in today's video. So if you would like to check out this book, then try to be one of the first 20 people, as the first 20 people will get a copy of this at 50% off. So if you're interested, check it out. The link is in my description box below. And good luck with the sale price. Oh, and one more thing I should mention, I still have weight to lose, and those are the exact recipes that I'm going to continue to eat to get the rest of this weight off. So it's working for me, and I'm pretty confident that they will work for you as well. All right, so let's get into the 10 things that I've stopped eating to get this 30 pounds off. But I just want to start by saying I just kind of found it crazy when I was looking back in my notes here and, you know, looking through my food diary and just seeing some of the things that I was including, you know, in my everyday meals. It's just kind of mind-blowing in comparison to how I'm eating now. There's just such a huge difference. So I'm actually really excited to share some of this stuff with you, because for those of you who have been following me, then I know that there's going to be some obvious ones that I've already talked about, but there's some less obvious ones that I haven't mentioned that I didn't even actually really realize that I had made these switches. So let's get into it. So to start, we are going to start with sweetened milks or homemade milks. Now, I know this is a really big question I get often about specifically what milk do I drink. So I usually use almond milk. Now, that's neither here nor there, no really specific reason in terms of, you know, why I drink the almond milk. I guess it's just my preference. But in terms of brands and all of that, so I'll say this, I try not to overthink it or sweat it too much. Sometimes I will just grab whatever milk is, you know, on sale, or whatever milk is just at my local grocery store. And other times I do go to my local health food store, which I go about once a week there. I will grab a better brand of, you know, almond milk that, you know, is free of this, free of that, free of everything. You know, it's about $10 for one carton of it. So that's certainly not something sustainable for me for as much milk as I use in this house for both myself and my children. So I just try not to sweat the small stuff, seriously, and it makes my life 1,000 times easier. So now the one big change though is that I used to always buy sweetened vanilla milk. And that is something I have not bought in months, and something that I've totally forgot to even mention on this channel. However, I will say that all of my recipes I do state unsweetened milk, but it's just something that I haven't really brought to light on my channel. So yeah, a lot of the times I used to buy the sweetened vanilla milk because I was a sugar addict. Definitely a huge sweet tooth, and I really enjoyed how the sweetened milk obviously made my meals taste that much better. Any of my recipes that included milks. And I really didn't think that it was that big of a difference. But I really believe that it is now. You know, just that extra unnecessary sugar in the diet. Sugar also contributes to weight gain or weight stalling. So just the fact that I have cut out the sweetened milk and replaced it always now with an unsweetened milk, whether that's unsweetened vanilla or an unsweetened original, has been a major change, and one that I think is worth mentioning and that has probably contributed to lowering the overall calorie density in my meals when I'm using the milk. When I have extra time, I have enjoyed making homemade milk in the past, but that's something that I haven't done in these past few months, simply because I can't really control the fat content within that milk. I find that the store-bought ones are not only watered down, but they actually state the nutrition facts, you know, on the container, so I can see what the fat content, what the sugar content is, stuff like that. But if I'm making a homemade, then I don't really know the fat content. I mean, I'm sure I could figure it out if I really wanted to, but I don't have time for that. So yeah, so I don't really make the homemade stuff as of right now. Both of those things were things that I was consuming in the beginning of my weight loss journey that I'm no longer consuming now. All right, so the next thing that I stopped eating that I used to eat when I started my plant-based weight loss journey is restaurant food or pre-made store-bought food. So yeah, this is a slippery slope, and I have lightly touched on this in a couple of videos. But for me, I just feel that it's easier to not eat it at all than to try to eat a little bit. Now, that could end up changing in time, but I really think that if you know yourself and you know that by just having just a little bit, that little bit could end up turning into an avalanche, and then you're just kind of all in, overeating, you know, off track and all that stuff. So I have tried that many times in the past, where, you know, I thought I could just eat in moderation and just have a little bit of this or a little bit of that and I'd be okay. And maybe I would even be okay within that specific meal or outing or something like that. But afterwards, you know, sometimes it would send me on some type of like food spiral. Well, I already messed up, or, you know, so I might as well throw the towel in for the rest of the day. And then that one day can end up turning into a couple days or into a week. And then we're starting again on Monday. You know, so for me, because I know myself and I know that that has been something I've struggled with in the past, in these past few months, I have just decided that I'm not going to eat any of it. So I still go out to my social gatherings. I still go out with friends, family. I've just kind of learned to be comfortable with being uncomfortable for a little bit, you know. It's not going to kill me. It's not the end of the world. I definitely don't want to miss out on an opportunity to hang out with friends and family. I've heard other people say like, oh, just don't go out with your friends anymore, or don't go, you know, visit your family if they're not eating how you're eating, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. I would never ever suggest that. This is life and we should be living it, you know, so we shouldn't let our food dictate our entire life. But I will say that, you know, for me, I had to really just get comfortable with saying no, you know, realizing that it's just food. You know, it's not the end of the world. And the other thing was just better preparing for situations like that. So it's not very bright if I know that I'm going to be going to an outing, you know, a social outing where there's going to be lots of food there and I show up hungry. That's just asking to torture myself. So I've also gotten a lot smarter with things like that and, you know, better preparing for that. So making sure that I'm going to eat a full meal before I leave. So, you know, anytime your stomach is full, anything is going to be less tempting. But when you're starving, whole different ballgame. So I've just better prepared myself for situations like that. And I find that it's really not that painful or that big of a deal when I am prepared. And the same goes for, you know, pre-made foods. We have a really nice bakery in my city called Angelo's, which is an Italian bakery, but they have like a whole like hot and cold food bar or whatever. And we also have another one. What is the name of that restaurant? Or not restaurant, the store, Farm Boy. So I think in the States, you guys have Trader Joe's. We have something called Farm Boy, which I think is probably fairly similar. Again, they have like a hot, cold food bar that you can go like grab food and it looks delicious, it looks healthy, but those are things that I also stay away from just because I can't be sure exactly what's in the food. I can't be sure of the fat content in the food. So I'm just seriously more comfortable just preparing my own food, especially during this critical stage of actually wanting to get this weight off. So I'm not leaving a lot of room for error during this phase. Now, will I stay like that forever? Maybe not. Maybe I will loosen up as I feel that I can trust myself a little bit more and that I have more control over things. But during that weight loss period, if you know yourself and you know that you're not quite there yet where you have, control over the food instead of food having control over you, then I would strongly suggest just being abstinent from it completely and not doing the whole, eating in moderation. So I've done the eating in moderation for years and years and years, and it literally kept me at the same weight or bigger. So as soon as I switched it up and tried something different, then here I am 30 pounds or more down. So you have to change something when the same thing that you've been doing over and over is just not working. So yeah, so not eating pre-made food or eating out at restaurants has been something else that I stopped eating. All right, so the next food that I stopped eating are any type of calorie-dense vegan desserts. Now, when I say calorie-dense, I don't even mean like, the really over-the-top type of vegan desserts. I'm just referring to even, some of my own meals that I put together that I thought were okay because, again, going back to that whole, I was eating healthy. So I thought eating healthy was synonymous with losing weight, that I'm eating healthier. So automatically the weight's just going to come off and I can kind of eat as much as I want and I'm still going to lose weight. I've made a lot of videos recently talking about that, and I can leave some posted in my description box below if you would like to check them out. But I do go into greater detail about that, specifically in one video. I will have that video posted in my description box. But that was a really, really big lesson that I had to learn, that just because you're eating healthy, it does not mean that you're going to lose weight. And so going back to, eating higher calorie dense desserts, if I'm adding maple syrup or brown sugar and, 3 or 4 apples and a banana on top of that and, just oats on top of that, and it's something really, really delicious, but a little bit on the calorie dense side. Even though in my mind, I was thinking these are lower calorie dense foods, as standalone foods. But when you put a bunch of them together, and then add the sauces or dressings or the nuts and the maple syrup and all that, sometimes, even though the intentions were good, they were there, but unfortunately it did not work out the way that I was hoping in terms of supporting weight loss. So now if I'm craving something delicious, I try to keep it super simple. As most of you who follow me, I love, love, love my fiber protein shakes. Those hit the spot every time for me because I've designed them in a way that they're kind of more dessert-like as opposed to like a green smoothie or, I kind of stay away from fruit smoothies in general. But I've really designed these fiber protein shakes to have awesome flavors like the Snickers shake, my Reese's Pieces Buttercup shake. My favorite is my vanilla birthday cake shake. Like, I love, love, love the taste of these, so much so that I look forward to them. So if I'm really kind of needing something sweet and delicious, then I usually just turn to my fiber protein shakes. All of them include healthy ingredients. The sugar's not too crazy, and then you have the beans in there to balance out your blood sugars, the beans to keep you full, so it's just kind of a win-win all the way around. So I usually just turn to that if I'm craving some type of dessert, or sometimes just a piece of fruit goes a long way, or a fruit bowl, or even a little bit of ice cream. Again, these are kind of more like, simple meals or mono meals when it comes to the desserts. And I find that that's just been working out beautifully. So again, just keeping things simple is sometimes the best way to go. So no longer am I trying to find these 15 ingredient dessert recipes. Yeah, no, that's not happening. So I've been keeping it simple and no longer having any type of, calorie dense vegan desserts. All right, so the fourth thing that I've stopped eating is pasta. And again, this may not be forever, but just more specifically during that weight loss period, I really wanted to just focus more on wet starches versus dry starches because all of the whole food plant-based foods are filled with water, and that's why we can get away with eating a lot more, getting more bang for our buck, so to speak, as far as calories go, right? So I feel like something like pasta can also be a bit of a slippery slope because when it comes to pasta, I'm not quite comfortable yet with, with myself myself in terms of trusting myself with how much I'm going to eat. I feel like if I had a really delicious spaghetti or pasta of any kind, I can pack that in. So, you know, this whole notion of eat as much as you want as long as there's no fat in it. Well, let me tell you, I can make a pretty mean spaghetti, you know, a pretty mean pasta, and it's delicious, filled with really, really healthy ingredients with absolutely no oil or no fat. And I'm gonna be able to eat quite a bit of that before I would really feel fully satiated and like I've had enough. Pasta can be one of those foods for me that I can just overeat it simply just because it's that good. It almost just tastes too good that I really just don't trust myself with it during my weight loss phase. So do I think that pasta is some like evil food that, you know, everybody should stay away from? Absolutely not. And there's some really wonderful pastas out there that are, you know, really healthy. And these companies have really gotten better about making, you know, these pastas a lot healthier, a nice whole grain pasta. You even have your chickpea pastas or other bean pastas and stuff like that. So I know that there's a lot of wonderful pastas out there, but for me, it's just more about the trust aspect. And I just know that I can eat too much of it and I'm gonna walk away feeling heavier than probably what I want. So yeah, pasta is something that I'm just eliminating for now. Again, I just want to keep repeating that this is kind of more just hyper focused during my weight loss phase. Doesn't mean I'm never going to eat this stuff again. Just means for now, this is something that I decided to try differently and stop eating, and it clearly has been working. Okay, so the fifth thing that I stopped eating that I was eating a lot of before are nut butters. Now that includes like almond butter, cashew butter, plain old peanut butter. You know, those nut butters, I think, got me into trouble. Now, not that I just, you know, was crazy with them or ate them right out of the container. I wasn't on this level. I know some are, but I'm happy to say I wasn't quite on that level. But even still, they are so calorie dense that I think by just even adding a little bit in a smoothie or having a little bit on a piece of whole grain toast like I would do before, or even in some of my sauces and dressings, that it really kind of got me into trouble with the weight loss, because I would think that, well, it's just a little bit, so how much damage is it really doing towards my weight loss? Really, I truly believe that it wasn't that big of a deal. But since eliminating them, I see that, yeah, actually it was quite a big deal because it was just kind of keeping me in the same level and even worse at times gaining weight by eating these things. So I was shocked to see once I removed them, just how fast the weight was falling off. So now when it comes to the powdered peanut butter, I've had a lot of questions about that. So I did want to touch on that in this video. So with the powdered peanut butter, again, that's something that I don't really sweat it too much. So the powdered peanut butter, the PB&Me, I think that there's other brands as well now, those are 85% reduced in the fat content. So they are not the same as consuming a nut butter. So some have asked, well, is the powdered peanut butter considered an overt fat? To be honest with you, I personally don't even really know how to answer that question. For me, my take on it is that I consider the nut butters themselves to be an overt fat. Considering the powdered peanut butters, they are so low in fat, and I just use the smallest amounts really only in my fiber protein shakes here and there if that's the shake that even requires it. I'm getting such a minimal amount in my diet that I'm literally not even concerned. I've been eating the powdered peanut butter the entire time that I've been losing my weight. Again, in small amounts just here and there, but still I've been eating it and I've still seen the weight fly off. So it has not been an issue for me at all. So again, I really try to not overcomplicate things or overthink things, and it's been working, so good enough. But the full fat nut butters, I have definitely stayed away from those. I haven't even had so much as a teaspoon of them in anything. So definitely the nut butters are something that I have stopped eating. All right, so the next thing that I stopped eating, which is similar to the nut butters, is tahini. Now, I'm not a huge fan of tahini by itself per se, but I used to love including tahini in a lot of my salad dressings, and more specifically, my buffalo sauce. For those of you who follow me, you might recall months ago me always talking about my buffalo sauce, that I loved it and I was obsessed with it because I literally put it on like everything. And in that recipe, it includes the tahinis. So I found that I was eating a lot of this buffalo sauce, which in turn meant I was eating a lot of tahini as well. And I really realized that, nope, I gotta cut that out. That's gotta go for now. I've actually been trying to work on a lower fat version of that buffalo sauce because I really truly miss it. And it was so delicious. But for now it had to go. So tahini is something else that is just too calorie dense. And honestly, it's every little bit that adds up here and there that for me, it was just easier just to get rid of it altogether. And again, it's been working. Okay, so I think we are on number 7 now. So the 7th thing that I stopped eating during this weight loss phase is bread. Now, again, this is not to demonize bread. I know that there's some lovely, dense, whole grain sprouted breads. Actually, I have my own favorite sprouted bread. That was always my go-to. So I'm not against breads in general because I know there's healthier ones out there. Will I eat bread again? Absolutely. So it's not like not eating breads for life. When I'm talking about all of these things, I want to keep reiterating, this was really just me hunkering down, during the weight loss phase and eliminating these things temporarily until I can get a better control on my weight and control over food. So bread is another thing that I stopped eating. Now, for me in general, I like bread. I don't love bread. It's not exactly something that I would crave, but if it was there in front of me, especially fresh bread, that's a whole other story. Fresh bread is its own thing, and I could pack some fresh bread away like you couldn't believe. But if we're just talking about regular store-bought bread, it's not the end of the world for me if I have it, if I don't have it. But one thing that I did eat quite a bit of that I've mentioned a little bit on my channel is avocado toast. So avocado toast is something that I would have pretty much daily. I enjoy the avocado toast a little too much. So that was one of the reasons that I wanted to give up the bread altogether, because then that would also put an X through that. And also I just found that bread didn't give me as much bang for my buck again, calorically speaking, So I just feel like potatoes could fill me up way more, or beans, one of those shakes could fill me up way more for a similar amount of calories. Whereas when I ate the bread, I just felt like it didn't really do too much in terms of keeping me full. And, when it comes to losing weight, that is the main thing, is that, we all fear like just starving ourselves, to get this weight off, or feeling really, really hungry. That is not how I've been feeling at all losing this weight, actually. I really give a lot of that credit to eating those wet starches like the beans and the potatoes. I just found that when I was eating bread, it just didn't really carry me long enough to my next meal. So I'm like, it's just not worth the calories, spending the calories on the bread when I could be spending it on potatoes or one of my shakes instead. So again, bread will probably be something that I will have a little bit from time to time in the future, but for now, it's still something that I'm gonna just focus on kind of keeping out of my diet, or at a very, very minimal level, until I get the rest of this weight off. All right, so the 8th thing, which goes hand in hand with that avocado toast, are avocados. So avocados may have been the hardest thing to give up out of all the things that I've mentioned in this video. I love avocados. Like, I love them nutritionally speaking. I love them for the way that they taste, for the way that they just bring life to just about any meal, or just on their own. I love avocados. So that one was not the easiest to give up. However, I did. And I really feel that it truly contributed to my weight loss by omitting it. Eating that avocado toast, every day or almost every day, it was just too calorically dense between the bread and between the avocados. I love guacamole, especially if I was having any type of Mexican dish. I could literally eat the whole plate of guacamole, no questions asked. And it's one of those things that it's really hard to control, because for such a small amount of avocado, there's quite a lot of calories. So, we're talking like 1 or 2 tablespoons and you should be done. But I don't know if I've ever been able to really sit down to a plate of guacamole or bowl of guacamole in front of me and just have 1 tablespoon of it, So again, it's just one of those foods that it's more the trust factor with myself, that I just don't trust myself quite yet with being able to have just a little bit of it. So as hard as it was to give it up, it was actually easier to give it up in another sense. And it wasn't just the avocado toast. I was using avocados, sometimes in my smoothies, in my salads, like I said, again, on their own, sometimes even slice it up on top of my soup. It was just too much avocado. And every time I ate it, I always thought it wasn't really that big of a deal, because I'm not talking like I would eat a whole avocado in one sitting. I would have, a quarter of an avocado or so, or if it was a really small avocado, then maybe it'd be half an avocado. So for me, I really truly didn't think that it was that big of a deal. But when you do a quarter here and a quarter there and half avocado there, and you're doing it every single day, then believe me when I say it does eventually add up. So unfortunately, I had to say goodbye to avocados. Again, very temporary. All of these foods are things that I would love to be able to incorporate back into my diet, but only once I'm out of my weight loss phase. Okay, so the second last thing that I've stopped eating are nuts. And I'm sure that that one was probably assumed. So nuts, you know, again, they have their place from a nutritional standpoint. I have nothing negative to say because they are filled with wonderful nutrition. But for me and for my weight loss, it just doesn't work. So before, as a lot of you who follow me probably remember, that a lot of my recipes, especially those sauces and dressings, always used nuts. And again, I didn't think it was that big of a deal because I was only using such small amounts. So in my mind, I'm thinking it's okay, it's really not that much. But when you're doing something every single day, it adds up over time. So the nuts that I would use in my dressings or sometimes even my smoothies, they had to go. So instead, I've come up with some lovely sauces and dressings that don't include any nuts whatsoever, and I have been enjoying them. My two favorite are my Caesar dressing and my cheese sauce. I am absolutely in love with that dressing and sauce, and I do not miss the fat when I eat those. Both my Caesar dressing and my cheese sauce can be found in the No Overt Fat Recipe Weight Loss ebook. All right, so we've made it to number 10, and the last thing that I have given up that I used to eat all the time that I don't eat now are seeds. So I wanted to make this a separate category aside from nuts, because I do want to touch on something very specific and a question that I've gotten quite a bit when it comes to the seeds. So seeds, much like nuts, can be pretty calorie dense. You would be surprised how much a little handful or like a quarter of a cup of seeds can be calorically speaking. So from the fat content perspective, they definitely had to go the same way that nuts did. And I used to enjoy putting seeds again in some dressings or just directly on top of salads or sometimes just eating them as is. Now, what I want to touch on is the question I've been getting the most is, well, what about omega-3s? How are you getting your omega-3s in and how do I feel about that? So here's the thing. I started by eliminating all the overt fats simply because I was going through some gallbladder struggles. You know, my gallbladder was acting up. So I just decided that I was going to stop eating any fat to get my gallbladder to calm down. Well, long story short, what ended up happening was the first 20 pounds just flew off of me in like 8 weeks. 20 pounds were gone. And so initially I had did it for my gallbladder, but when I saw the results I was getting for my weight loss, I kept up eating the same way and the weight continued to fall off. So that's how I got to where I am right now with my weight loss. With that being said, the reason why I'm not including any type of seeds or flaxseed or chia seed or anything like that in my diet right now is because of my gallbladder. Now, where I personally stand when it comes to omega-3s, I definitely feel like there is a place for them in everybody's diet. So omega-3s are something that our body does not make on its own. It's something that, you know, calms the inflammation down in our body and that we have to eat in order to get it in our body. So omega-3s are a tricky one because yes, they do come from our nuts and seeds, which do have a higher fat content. So for me right now, unfortunately, my gallbladder cannot handle any of the seeds. I've tried including even just a little bit of flaxseed, and for whatever reason, my gallbladder was just not having it. So for me right now, I am not including any of those seeds and nuts, and I'm well aware that those are omega-3s that I'm missing out on. So I'm not happy about it, but that is what it is for me, and that's the honest answer as far as whether or not I'm eating them. Now, would I suggest to everybody eliminating all types of nuts and seeds when it comes to those omega-3s? I would probably say no, I'm not going to suggest that just because omega-3s are super important for our health. So I would say that if you can tolerate them and they're not a problem for you, then I would say that that's the one fat that you should consider consuming in your diet just because it is that important to our health. Now, with that being said, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist. That's just my own cheap 2 cents on the matter, just from everything that I've heard about omega-3s and read up on omega-3s. I definitely think that that is something that we should all be aware of and concerned about if you're not getting any in your diet. But again, I'm just gonna leave that there because I'm not any type of specialist on the matter. That is definitely just my 2 cents. But in terms of whether or not I've been eating them during my weight loss phase, no, I have not been eating any seeds whatsoever. All right, everyone. So if you have made it this far, thank you for hanging in there. This video ended up being a little bit longer than anticipated, but a much needed video because I have had a lot of questions specifically on some of those things that I have eliminated. So I hope this video clears some of that up and gives some clarification. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel and you're also on a plant-based weight loss journey, or you just want to stick around and watch mine unfold, then be sure to hit that subscribe button, as I would love to have you stick around. And if you found any gems in this video or anything helpful at all, if you could do me a favor by giving this video a thumbs up for me, that just tells the algorithm that I am doing a good job and to pump my videos out a little bit more. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Again, don't forget to check out that awesome book sale. The first 20 people get it at 50% off. The link is in the description box below. I'll see all of you in the next one.